So before we experience what we expect could be another cyclone and heavy rainfall event, I wanted to get on the ground again in those remote communities most affected by ex-tropical Cyclone Jasper. That's where I spent yesterday after chairing the Disaster Management Committee meeting in Brisbane. I visited Dagara and Wujal Wujal and Ayton and saw firsthand how efforts there to get those communities back on their feet are progressing. Each of those communities is very different, even though they are closely located to each other, and what I saw was I saw significant progress, but it's frustratingly slow, and there is still much more work that needs to be done. I can't tell you how excited I was to see the first caravan arriving into Wujal Wujal and Dagara. There are many caravans now on the ground in Ayton for the community there. Work continues to get the core infrastructure up and running in Wujal Wujal. The council is working really as hard as they can to get the depot and the council building, and really importantly the town store, up and running. The biggest impediment to getting the community back there right now is the wastewater treatment facility. The pump, although it is running at the moment, it was inundated in the flood, and there's an expectation that it will fail. And so efforts are underway now to source a new suitable pump to get the wastewater up and running. There is electricity in Wujal Wujal and in Ayton, but not yet in Dagara. The Ergon are awaiting some additional poles to be able to rewire from Wujal into Dagara. I spent most of the time in Ayton. Didn't make it to Ayton last time I was on the ground, and I was very conscious that they had expected me that day, so I was very keen to get there, meet with and talk to people there. Understandably, they remain frustrated too. There was a large group I was able to meet with at the library, which is doubling as the community recovery hub. One of the frustrations has been about communication, and I was really pleased that the CEOs of the three councils had agreed that Cook would take more of a lead role in combining communication. So even though these are three towns closely located, they each have their own council, and each of those councils is leading those local disaster recovery operations. So even though some of the people in Ayton are from Wujal or Dagara, they're getting updates in Ayton from Cookshire, but not necessarily all the information about what's going on in their town. And so I really think that linked up communication is going to be important. I heard from them that the health services, which are currently being delivered from Ayton, were appreciated, but that they needed a more appropriate facility with privacy. And so I've been discussing overnight with health what they can do in terms of a pop-up clinic or a trailer or some kind of facility like that. The doctor visits once a week, but if the doctor writes them a prescription, they have to travel to Cooktown to fill that prescription. Clearly that's not good enough, and so we need to find a way to get basic medications into town so that people can access them quickly. So that's one of the things we're working on. Happy to take questions.
You mentioned Wujal Wujal. What's the timeline, and is there I'm assuming there's a potted plan around the sewage and some of the infrastructure. Is there a timeline as to when they can expect to return?
So we were so pleased to get electricity reconnected in Wujal so quickly, but what we couldn't anticipate until the electricity was on what the state of the other infrastructure was like. We think that the infrastructure is capable of delivering non-potable water, but that the sewage treatment plant, as I've said, we expect that the pump there will fail quickly. And so that's really why, and I understand how frustrating this is, I'm frustrated too, it's why we haven't been able to give a firm timeline on the community on when it will be safe to return, because we don't know when we will be able to get that pump and where we'll be able to get it from. they're literally scouring the country looking for parts so that they can get the pump back up and running. There are experts from the water department there right now. We really hope to have a firmer answer next week. The timeline's given to me, and I get an update on this every day. The timeline's given to me keeps shifting between 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks back to 2 to 4 weeks. So we can't give a firmer answer until we know when we'll be able to get that pump.
Elders are asking for a meeting with you. They're accusing you of just using it for photo opportunities. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, look, I was really sad to see that story, and I rang Auntie Kathleen this morning. I've apologised to her that she felt that way. I guess I was so focused on the practicalities of getting the town back up and running. And so I'm sorry that the elders felt like I didn't communicate sufficiently with them. I've sent Nikki Boyd, who was here with me. She would have been here at the press conference. I've sent her to Cooktown this morning to meet with those elders. I'll get up there as soon as I can, hopefully with Minister Enoch, who's been their key contact for us, that community's key contact for us as a government. What I assured Auntie Kathleen was that everyone is absolutely focused on getting them back to country, back to their community as quickly as we possibly can. That's why we were so focused on working with the council and spending time on the ground with the council. As I hope you've heard in my update, it's really useful for me to see that firsthand and hear that firsthand. The primary purpose of my visit was to get to Ayton, but I wasn't going to go to Ayton without visiting Wujal, and that's why we stopped in Wujal Wujal first. But I have contacted Auntie Kathleen, and I'll try and get up there as quick as I can.
We've heard from businesses.
People who from Wujal who, as a consequence of this, potentially unemployed. There's talk about sort of wayward youth and things like that, and the implications of being off country for such an extended period. What sort of support network can be provided and support, I guess, for those young people and older people, families who are displaced?
Look, no one would ever want this for any Queensland community. It is a terrible and frustrating situation for them to find themselves in. We have been working really closely with them to deliver everything that we can, from mental health support to health support. They are a strong community, and they do take care of each other, but we've wanted to make sure that they also have all of the supports that the state government can give them. If they've felt frustrated about the lack of information, then I'm sorry about that. I share their frustration, and I assured Auntie that we would do everything that we can to get information to them as quickly as they can, and of course that we're doing everything we can to get them back there. Every step of the way, our concern has been for their health and safety and well-being, and it continues to be.
We've heard from businesses at Cape Tribulation that are actually looking at shutting down because of the fact they're basically cut off from the economy, and there are still huge road issues there. Is there more your government plans to do to help fix that access and get these people trading again, or at least some temporary financial relief, more than what they've already been offered?
Again, we've been in constant contact with the Cape Tribulation community there. I spoke to Jeremy yesterday afternoon, primarily to apologise that I wasn't going to make it there on this particular trip, that I'd spent more time on the ground in those other three communities, and they were really understanding of that situation. I did have two senior government advisors who had driven to Cape Tribulation. I wanted them to drive the road and see exactly what state it was in first, so that we could, firsthand appreciate that situation. I understand how frustrating it is in Cape Tribulation to have not been especially affected directly by the disaster, but to have been cut off in such a way that their businesses really haven't been able to operate. They're very frustrated about the transport situation. Transport and Main Roads have reached out to Douglas Council and said if there is anything that the state can do to provide them additional assistance to get the roads back up and operating and open safely, then the state stands ready to provide that assistance.
So does that government take over the road?
This is a local road. and there are implications in making it a state road. But what we have said to Douglas is that if our engineers, if our plant, our equipment, our contractors can help them to get it open quicker, then we will do that. So that offer is on the table right now with them.
So the Douglas Shire says they can't maintain the road. They have a very strict rate base. Would you consider taking over the road?
Oh, look, the people responsible for the decision to disamalgamate councils really need to answer those questions about sustainability and viability. Upgrading the road to a state-controlled road would change a range of standards that could potentially slow the meeting of those standards. So what we want to do is help Douglas to do their job. We want to support them to get the road back open. This isn't a question of funding. There is funding from the state and the Australian government available through the DRFA arrangements to do this work. And what we're saying to Douglas is if there is anything that you need, we will get it for you.
Douglas Shire has lost water in the 3 times in the last 50 days. Are there plans to upgrade the network?
Again, we have water experts on the ground supporting and assisting Douglas. The water situation, of course, is very concerning, and we want to see it. We want to see it addressed, and we'll deliver whatever assistance that we can to them.
What kind of assistance?
Well, at the moment, that's engineers and experts from the water department on the ground, working with them to identify a solution.
Back to Tribulation Road, apologies. Is there a timeline for when the road will reopen?
Not that I have right now, no. We, as I say, want to make sure that that happens as quickly as it can, and the best thing that we can do to achieve that is to make sure that Douglas has any support that the state can provide.
Is there a risk some of these communities will be forgotten if Qld causes widespread damage further south?
No, there isn't. As I said at the outset, the reason I'm here and racing back for the next Disaster Management Committee meeting was I wanted to make sure that those communities didn't feel like they were forgotten, even though we're about to face potentially another disaster like the 2 that we saw in December. Queenslanders are tough. We know how to deal with these disasters. We know how to prepare ourselves. We know how to respond, and we know how to recover. And we know how to stick with communities for the long haul because we've seen so many times that the impact of these disasters can be there for months, and in the case of people's mental health, for years. And we are determined to continue to provide that support, and you'll continue to see plenty of me up here in the States Far North through this recovery. I think it's my 7th visit since Tropical Cyclone Jasper hit.